Namam Vishnu Padayam Krishna Pristaya Bhutan Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tilam Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Prachalini Nirveshesha Sunyavadi Prachalcha Dashatari.
Sometimes we can ask ourselves, why does Krishna is giving so many tests to his devotees like that? Because his devotees can pass these tests in a way that teach us the best way, the most appropriate manner to finally to get over this ocean of material suffering. And we'll see in the nature of Draupadi that she has a wonderful divine nature. Some acharyas are saying that this is the feminine weakness. Some certain will, just like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, will extol the glories of the feminine qualities of Draupadi. Draupadi even forgave to Ashvatthama the murder of her 5 children. The capacity to forgive, Srila Prabhupada explains, is the quality of a person. The most a person is holy, the more she will forgive. Why? He explains in his different commentaries, a self-realized soul is never aggressed. To whom does the blame goes? To the soul or the body? The one who is conscious that he is not his body, why should he be affected when we say he is crazy? That he is like this or like that? Certainly, my body has all these different weaknesses, but I am beyond this. You understand? My position, my meditation is not on this platform. My meditation is in Vrindavan, but simply this body in this world expresses in itself in an imperfect manner, according to birth. I could have like a bad tongue, bad words, or I could be strong, but at the same time violent, really sweet. So all these things, they are coming from previous lives, that the nature is giving us a false nature. But myself inside, I'm different. So the one who doesn't have any transcendental meditation, what does he see? He sees the external nature of things. That's why a religious person, it's very difficult for a religious person to understand a liberated soul, an exalted soul. Because an exalted soul, she has sometimes a manner to conduct herself weirdly. We see Gokshadas Babaji Maharaj, he stayed in the toilet to do his bhajan. The toilets in India, they smell very bad. But still, it was for him, it was better this fragrance than the association with materialistic persons. Can you believe it? The disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta, they were forced to knock at the door because they could hear the name of, when they would hear the name of Saraswati, then they would open, otherwise no. Who can understand such personalities? We can understand because Bhaktisiddhanta explained the nature of Gokshadas Babaji Maharaj. But who could understand such a person? It's extremely difficult. Why? Because the only possibility for a religious person to accept the holiness of a person is his external behavior. But the external behavior is not a qualification. For example, someone who trains to do something, at some point it becomes perfect. It's a training. A nature can change. But now we speak about the transcendental nature. We speak about the elevation of a person. And this is completely different. For example, let's take the case of Bhakti Pragan Keshava Goswami Maharaj. Once, the math at this time was receiving funds from the land that she was renting. And then a farmer, he revolted, and because he wanted to ask others not to pay. So what did Bhaktivedanta Kesava Goswami Maharaj did? He was not a Maharaj at this time. He hit so much the landlord. He hit him so much, so hard, that the others, they were afraid. And then the conflict was finished. But still, Bhaktivedanta Kesava Goswami Maharaj is not a sadhana siddha. Someone who attained perfection in his bhajan by a spiritual practice. He is a person who is coming from the transcendental world. What can we understand in this behavior? But still, if we take the example of Jesus, he broke everything in a temple. But the religious condemned him. What can we understand of this? It's extremely confusing, but very confusing. But even when Krishna says, although my devotee can do the worst things, we don't speak about like pursing a piece of paper. When I say about the worst, I'm saying I don't even dare to say it. But because he is my devotee, he right away he puts himself back on track, and he is purified and forgiven. We must understand that Krishna has an attachment for his devotee. It is particular. He loves his devotee. When life after life you give yourself to Krishna, Krishna will never forget you. He loves you. He loves you so much. It is difficult to understand. He will do everything for you, like you are ready to do everything for him. In the manner that you surrender to him, that you are ready to take the blame, to take the hit, to suffer for him, he is ready to do the same thing for you. It works only like this, love. You understand? And this is what is very confusing, disturbing. Because even if a devotee will commit a fault, Krishna never will blame him. He will do everything to put him back on track. Even worse, there's this story. I tell it often because it's so wonderful. Vipranarayan, with the story of Devadevi. Everyone heard this before. I told it 100 times maybe. But we see that Vipranarayan, he was a Mahabhagavat because he had an attachment for Devadevi, who was a prostitute. The Lord himself stole all the gold, all his platters in gold for his worship. He brought it to Devadevi so that his devotee could have her association. Can you see that? It's something inconceivable. It goes up to that point. Krishna loves so much his devotee, so much. We can't imagine the love that Krishna has for his devotee. He follows him, he does everything for him. And we see the life of a devotee, although he passes through tests, the more the tests are great, the more the realization of Krishna is great. That's why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that even in Madhura Kanambini, that Krishna himself, he organizes the tests. When Krishna gives you a test, can you believe it? He tracks you. You have no way. He tracks you so much that you're forced 100%, 1,000% to surrender yourself. Because Krishna is on your case. It's like the death, but it's life. Die to live. I surrender. And then Krishna is happy. Because through this test, he educated people for future generations. It's a story that will inspire people. And at the same time, But still, it is still his devotee. How to understand this? How to understand that Krishna puts his devotee in illusion and he tests him to worship his devotee. This is the nature of the Lord. The Lord is like this. It is his nature. And this, a religious person, it's very difficult to understand. Because a religious man, what does he want? He doesn't want any tests. He wants material goods, he wants pleasure. True or not? And after he wants to go to paradise, after death, he wants to go to paradise to enjoy more. So if you tell him he will be tested, no, but that person will not come anymore. It's finished. She is unhappy. But a saint, a real saint, when he sees Krishna will test him, he goes. He is happy. This is a devotee. He's ready to suffer for Krishna. In the 8th verse of Shikshastakam, Radharani, she said, no matter which happiness, my happiness, no matter if this gopi gives more pleasure to Krishna than me, and that he breaks my heart and shows this pastimes of love in front of me, then this suffering, which is mine, I consider it like happiness, if Krishna can be happy doing this. Are you ready for this? When you will be ready for this, you will obtain prema, Krishna prema, no less. But this will come little by little, because Krishna will infuse in your heart gradually this fact of dying to live. It's so good to die for Krishna. It's so wonderful. There's a taste that we cannot imagine, but we must be at a certain level of spiritual life. We must pass through the Kanishtadikari, where we are only centered around ourselves, that if it's not toward us, we abandon. Because there, at this level, it's not Krishna's test that we receive. Krishna will not test us because we won't stay. But the test is coming from our previous lives, our karma. We're not freed from these influences of karma. But when we become more advanced in spiritual life, and that we're purified, more or less, all the results of our previous activities, then we can receive the test, Krishna's test. Because we only have one goal, is to obtain him. And then we will prove us to Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said it's just like love. Then we have to prove ourselves. Vishwanath explains that then at that point, Krishna observes us. He is with us, he observes us. Why? Because Krishna himself gives the test and he becomes indebted by the suffering that his devotee experiences. You understand this point? It's Krishna who puts a test so that he can give himself because he is indebted. And his love for his devotee increases. What happens when the love of devotee increases? It is that Krishna becomes more and more perceptive to the devotee. And then the devotee becomes more attached to Krishna. And the test, when it is perceived, it is a test of love. That doesn't mean that the devotee is suffering constantly, but there will be tests, because we have to prove our love. And this is logical. For example, materially speaking, will you give your heart to someone without testing him? Will you marry, give away all your possessions? Because if that person asks for divorce, that person will get 50%. You have a great fortune. We need proofs. You understand? We cannot just be in love. And there's a big capital behind this. So in the same way, why will Krishna not test you? Why he will give everything? Because Krishna is like this. He gives everything. He gives himself. He gives his kingdom. He gives everything. We obtain a position that we cannot even imagine. It's impossible to imagine. We obtain God, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Person. How is that possible for a jiva? An infinitesimal jiva to obtain God. It's inconceivable. It's the energy of mercy of the Lord, because His energy is unlimited and can accomplish everything. Although you are very small, you can obtain the gigantic, the great. And this is Krishna. This is this faculty to give Himself to us, to reciprocate with love. If His devotee does one step, Srila Prabhupada said Krishna does 10, 100,000 steps toward us. Because He has this faculty to see even the most little effort. This is why He says, Neha Bikramana Shosti. Never, the minutest effort is lost. Krishna will come back to take you. Even if in this life you do not attain perfection, He will come again and again in the form of Guru, in the form of the Supreme Soul. He will come again. And the day where truly you can give yourself 100%, He will track you 100%, then the surrender will be complete. And after, you will be able to realize your spiritual body, your eternal form. And what is really interesting is that the devotee is conscious of everything what is happening. He can hear Krishna inside of him. I did this for that. You see, you can do it. Krishna, He does everything. It's something inconceivable. The more we become spiritually advanced, the more we become conscious of what Krishna did for us, His arrangements. As soon as someone will be a problem for our advancement, He leaves. This and that. It's always like that, because it's the nature of the Lord. And it's not that He corrects, that He favors one and not the other. It means that even if one person should leave for a moment, she can be more favored than if she would have stayed, because God is perfect. Do never think He favors someone. He is impartial. Samoham Savabhuteshu. He is impartial. He does not favor anyone. Simply, He reciprocates to love. Everyone will be a winner. Everyone will have the highest good. It cannot be otherwise. But the only difference is that since we are not religious people, and that we are backed as devotees of the Lord, He will not reward us with paradise and with impersonal freedom, liberation. What He wants is our soul. He wants to introduce us in His pastimes, so He will take away everything. It's just a question of time. You won't be able to save yourself. Even if you put yourself in home and don't leave, Krishna will come. He will come to take you. Right now you think you can escape yourself. It's just a question of time. Everything will fall apart. So because Krishna needs to save you. This is Patita Pavana. He is the Savior. If He gives you a position where everything is good, is He a friend? Because when everything goes well, it's just like a punishment. Because there's no surrender. Can you believe? Queen Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam, she even prays to receive suffering because she associates more with Krishna. Of course, when a devotee is absorbed in bhajan, he tastes bliss, wonderful bliss. But before that, we must lose our attachments. Because if we are attached to something in this world, we won't be able to attach ourselves to Krishna. Those who are attached to an illusory object cannot be attached to Krishna. All of this must disappear. This is normal. Without this, we are not in a Vaishnava concept. We are in a religious concept. And religious, when they hear this, they think, for them it's horrible. You understand? But the Vaishnava, when he hears that Krishna is testing him, then this is the difference, the true difference between a Vaishnava and a religious person. A religious person, when the Lord chastises him, then the religious chastises God. He loves the Lord only if he receives material things. And when Krishna chastises him because his attachments, they don't allow him to surrender to him, then he rejects Krishna. That's why there are paths where we call fruitive activity, or the path of jnana, where it's only directed to the acceptance of happiness and liberation from suffering. But not more than that. Devotion means sacrifice. To proportion with their sacrifice, in proportion we receive. And the sacrifice can be done in any circumstance, not only in a temple. Even here can be a sacrifice. When you serve your child for Krishna, it's a sacrifice. When you serve your wife for Krishna, it's a sacrifice. When you go work for Krishna, it's a sacrifice. Do not think that there's only people in a temple who do a sacrifice. You do a sacrifice, but your sacrifice, what does it mean? It means to act with the consciousness of doing it for the Supreme Lord. When you do it for the Supreme Lord, then it is called a sacrifice. Because you do not act for yourself, you act for Him. But still you do the same thing. Exactly the same thing. But the gain is not the same. Materially, if you do a sacrifice for yourself, you will lose everything at the time of death. And even before that. Death will take everything away. But if you do a sacrifice for Krishna, then you obtain Krishna. And if you obtain Krishna, then your eternal nature manifests itself. You obtain everything. This is why we can do the same thing, but with a different consciousness. And the gain is completely different. Krishna does not ask us to stop eating, to breathe, to have a car, to have a motorbike, to do music, to dance. Simply, He encourages us to do things for Him. Our path is not austere, it is joyful. What is the austerity? When it is directed towards us, it means we will meet people. If people don't tell us you're the best, then we don't come anymore. We see the love of a person when she is tested. When there's a test and there's nobody, that means the person acts only for herself. When someone is tested but very deeply and is even more enthusiastic, that means he is not an ordinary being. You understand? It's not possible. Nobody can take so much chastisement and be even more happy. It's not possible. Means something's happening. Means the test he receives is Krishna will give him, and Krishna gives himself through that test himself. What does that devotee does? People who give him the test, who chastise him, then they become his friends. He loves them because of them I obtain Krishna. It's wonderful, and they are my best friends. So if you meet someone like that, you think he's crazy. You think he's a good, or maybe you think he's a good person. It depends on the mentality you have. If you're simply centered around yourself, then you'll think he's crazy. He's crazy. But if you're centered around Krishna, then there will be. Then I will think, I can learn something with him. Because if I associate with him, I will meet a wonderful world. The world of Krishna. You understand? This is at this level that we have to be. And it's really possible. If you're really determined, you will pass all tests. Krishna will inspire you in the heart. Krishna will inspire you directly. He will explain to you. He will give you the strength, the love. He will heal your difficulties. Even he will give you a kiss of love, because Krishna is like that. The more you will suffer, because he will tell you, do this for me, and then problems will start to come. There's a great devotee who explains that how one person was tested by his own deity. At 10 o'clock in the evening, 2 o'clock in the morning, massage me, I'm hungry, this and that. If the deity will come speak to us, will we be still there? If at 2 o'clock she wakes us up, I would like a sweet rice. Already Balaram, when we ask him for orders and it was not supposed to be, I can't explain to you. If Krishna will come to wake him up every 5 minutes, it's not so simple. To hear the Lord is difficult. Our life becomes a sacrifice. Remember, for example, Abraham, the Lord. Certain people said he didn't understand. He sacrificed his own son. Imagine if the Lord will ask you, "Oh, Sushila, sacrifice your son." So he accepted, and he was crying, but he accepted. At the moment he was on the point of putting the knife. The Lord stopped because he was ready to sacrifice his own kid. The son, he appreciated so much. He was waiting for him. And the mercy of the Lord, and the Lord told him, "You will sacrifice your son." It is. We must have a very deep surrender. In every path there are surrendered people. We call them Vaishnavas. People who are ready to sacrifice everything. Why? Because their experience surpasses the others. They have a relationship with God, more or less intimate, but they have a real relationship with God. Moses, he started to even be angry towards the Lord. He said, "Will you give to these people something to eat?" Because the relationship, when it is more intimate, the devotee can even become angry towards the Lord. Why? Because there's the experience. I don't advise you to be angry towards the Lord. I'm not sure it's going to work. But that one was punished. He wasn't able to go to the promised land. So, but still, when Satyabhama, she screams to Krishna, Krishna is happy. So there are different levels of devotion. The gopis also, they chastise Krishna. Krishna even will beg the forgiveness from Radharani. And she says, "Yes, but only if you do my braid, if you redo my hair again." In this world, we try to imitate Krishna. We see when we look at a movie, even Indian movies, it's such romance. You see the Bollywood movies, it goes very deep. Only Indians can bring it to that level. Even the Westerners, they cannot understand at the material level. Why? Because they are the ones that imitate the best Radha and Krishna. That's why they have very strong attachments. But at the same time, they have devotion close to the skin. They can very quickly understand. Because in goodness, when we are more influenced by goodness, we can understand more about love, having better social interactions, but at the same time it's very rigid. Indians who are rich, for example, there's a whole perverted application of Vedic society. For example, the parampara at this level, it's that the father finds the girl for the son. It's a disciplic succession. It was perverted. I wanted to speak about this a little bit. On this new day of the new year, the principle of faith, of surrender, and to accept tests. The tests are necessary because we have to prove our love. And not just when a test is there. We think people don't love me. We're really directed toward ourselves. We are cheating ourselves. Wake up. You become your worst enemy when it's like this. Thank you very much.